Hey guys, it's Vin again from The Better Gentleman, and I know it's been a little bit since my last video, but as you can see, a lot of things have changed, and I will have a video coming out explaining kind of what I've been up to, and depending on whenever you find this video, it might already be out. So if you're interested in that, keep a lookout for a link somewhere. But anyways, on to today's video. We're going to be checking out the Surface Duo. This will be the 2020 version. These just went on a massive sale. I was able to pick up the 256 gigabyte variant off of Woot for around 500 bucks. And that is a steep cut in its price point. And so I really wanted to see if this phone's going to be worth it in 2021. So my plan for this is actually to go ahead and test it out for the entire month and see if it's actually even worth it. In today's video, we're just going to be doing the unboxing, and we're going to do our first impressions. But anyways, let's get right into it. All right, so up top we have our phone. Looks really nice, even though it's got this plastic cover on it. Let's get that off of there. This is really on there on the inside. So the interesting thing about this phone is that they don't actually try to hide that this is two separate screens. They even have this shiny little bezel from the hinge to let you know that, again, that these are two individual screens. So this device definitely isn't like the Galaxy Fold, but so this one is basically a phone with dual screens. Next up in the box, we have the Surface Duo bumper, which is specifically designed just for this phone. And that's actually nice that they included it in the box because there aren't that many options for this as far as cases go. And next up, we have our charging stuff. So we have, I want to say we have a power brick with this, but I want to make sure because most phones now do not. Yes, we do have a power brick in here, and okay, cool. Underneath the literature, we have the charging cable in here. And so this is an 18-watt adapter here, so not terrible. And this actually is a very nice and thick cable that they give you. Definitely a lot thicker than the ones that come with Samsung phones. Also want to point out with the literature stuff, they do have your SIM removal tool here. Alright guys, so now we have everything that's in the box laid out. We have our Surface Duo, we have some literature, we have our SIM removal tool, we have an 18-watt power brick, we have this USB-C to USB-C charging cable, and we have this little bumper case that Microsoft includes in the box. Alright guys, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about the design of this phone. Obviously it's very unique, especially because, well, foldables are still relatively new, or well, actually this isn't really even a foldable, it's more of a dual screen device, but very unique nonetheless. I really like it because it's actually pretty clean. You'll notice that you don't really have anything on the external of this device. You just have that Microsoft logo over here. You have this really cool looking hinge. And like I said, nothing else. So there's no camera bump or anything on the outside. The only camera you get on this device is the one that's on the inside. That selfie camera is also going to be your primary camera as well. And other than that, the only thing on the outside is this USB-C charging port over here. You have your buttons over here, your volume up and down buttons, your power button. And over here, I'm not really sure if that's going to show up in the camera or not, but that is going to be your fingerprint sensor. And at the very bottom, you have your SIM card tray. And actually, one thing that I just noticed when I was opening and closing this, it actually has this very satisfying close. So here, I don't know if it's going to pop up in the camera or not, but and I'm not quite sure why that really stuck out to me. I just guess it's because it was very different from the Z Flip that I had, which was a more solid close. This one is very soft. Look at that. You can't actually, you could do it with one hand. Opening it with one hand is impossible. That's not something that's going to happen. And the last thing I want to talk about design-wise, again, is going to go back to these screens. This is going to be a really weird aspect ratio for many. I'm really interested to see like how taking phone calls with this will be. I expect that they just want you to go ahead and buy their Microsoft the Surface Buds that they had, because without like some type of Bluetooth headset, this would be kind of a pain. Like if you're like putting this up to your ear, and definitely wouldn't be comfortable at all, in my opinion. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and test all that out. For now, let's go ahead and get this thing booted up. All right, really nice. You got the Microsoft logo here, powered by Android on the side. So I do think a lot of people were hesitant about the whole Microsoft and Android thing that this device has going for it. But I do think Microsoft actually plays really well with Android. Even on my Galaxy Note devices that I have, I use the Microsoft skin that they have for that. I forgot what it's called, the Microsoft Launcher. And that is actually my favorite one. And I think the Microsoft apps in general work really well on Android devices. All right, so first up, we're gonna go ahead and select our language. We're gonna do English. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and sign into my Wi-Fi. All right, guys, so I just got connected to my Wi-Fi and actually just had the worst experience ever trying to connect to it. For whatever reason, the numbers on the keyboard weren't working. So I tried scanning the QR code, but like I said, you only get this one camera. And I guess like it does like this whole reversing. So it was like very trippy, like just trying to like scan the QR code, but it couldn't. And then like I had to like open and close the screen a couple times, and then finally I got the numbers to work. But yeah, off to a pretty rocky start, I would say. Hopefully, oh yeah, look, there's an update on there, so maybe that update goes ahead and it'll fix that. All right, so apparently the battery's too low for this, and we have a 1.12 gigabyte update. All right, so hopefully something that can that's gonna help out. But okay, so it won't even let me continue any further. So I'm gonna go ahead and charge this phone for a little bit. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, I was able to go ahead and get this thing updated. So next up, they're gonna ask if you want to go ahead and copy your data from anywhere. Gives you a couple of interesting options. They even have an iPhone device over here. I don't think they typically have that whenever you're doing it on a normal Android phone. I think it just asks you if you want to transfer from your old device. But I think it's pretty interesting that they have an iPhone device listed specifically over here. And because I want to get the whole experience, I'm not going to copy anything over to this device. So we're going to hit Don't Copy. All right, so we're going to sign in with our Gmail account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here real quick. Very hard to type, so we're going to fold this over. About that, and I'm going to log in this way. All right, so unfortunately, the rest of the steps I took actually got cut off, but they were pretty simple. You sign into your Google account, and then it'll ask you for some permissions. You don't have to accept all of them. I typically recommend not doing that. All right, and then after the Google part, they do have some permissions that Microsoft asks for, again, because this is a Microsoft device running Android. Again, same thing like with Google. I typically don't give away like any permissions unless it's absolutely necessary, but it's pretty straightforward. And now that I actually have this device set up, I'm gonna go ahead and play around with it for a little bit. And in the meantime, I'll throw up some quick specs for you, and then we'll see how this thing does. All right, guys, so I actually went ahead and ended up using this for a little bit more than I thought I would for the first impression. So yesterday is when I did the unboxing of this, and then I just decided to kind of play around with it a little bit more, because I mean it is quite fun to use. And I thought that, you know, waiting a little bit would give me a little bit more of an idea of what to expect with this, who it would be right for. And so basically, I'm just going to go ahead and start off the first impressions with what's good about it. And the thing that really sticks out to me is the design, because this is actually way more thin than I thought it would be. If you could like put it up next to this is an iPhone SE inside of a case, and it's not too much thicker. It is on the side with the bumper case on it, but again, not anything that would really bug you too much. And for that, you actually end up getting a device, I mean, you know, a slim device that opens up and has dual displays. Like when you have it open like this in the, I think they call it the book mode or whatever. So whenever it's like fully open, I mean, this is ridiculously thin. It's thinner than your average smartphone would be. So again, pretty cool on that. And when you're holding it like this, it is more like using a tablet. When I say it's kind of like a tablet, it's not pretending to be a tablet with a single display. It is like these two screens, they act independently. It's kind of like having a dual screen monitor rather than just one full-blown display. So, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily bad. I actually think that's really helpful in certain situations, but it is something that you should know. You can go ahead and use certain apps in like the whole full display mode. I've seen people do that for like videos where like the video will go over the entire screen, but I don't really think that's, well, I don't think that's great to watch. I've seen other people, like, you know, you have a whole feed going down like that. I can kind of see that being a better use of it. But however, like most of the time, whenever I've been using it, whenever it's been open in this book mode, I've been using it by having one app on one side and another on the other. But most of the time, 90% of the time, I think you will be using this folded in like this. It's actually kind of cool how that works, because it does have a sensor to tell which side you are facing. So anyways, I think that is kind of cool. And you can actually go ahead, so like let's say if you're running YouTube on this side, you had Chrome on this side, it will keep that on each side. So if I was using this side for Chrome and this side for YouTube, I can use Chrome on this side and then flip it to the other side and still have YouTube playing on this. So again, I thought very interesting, a very interesting implementation. And actually, speaking of the displays, I do think that this is a beautiful display that they have. Just very gorgeous and very bright displays on both of these. Going back to the rest of the design real quick, because of this hinge, you're able to like use this in like various different positions. Like I said, most people are probably going to use it like this, but yesterday I was in my car and I needed to use this for a GPS, but I hadn't installed the little magnet thing on the back to use with my holder. So, but I was able to actually get away with just putting it down like this, and it didn't really move anywhere while I was driving. So again, the hinge makes this a very versatile device. Actually, speaking about the GPS, I think that this did a fantastic job at being a GPS because of the 4:3 aspect ratio. In general, whenever you're using a smartphone, you get a 16:9, or if you get like a Sony, like 21 by something. It feels like you get a lot more information on the screen. For example, each screen is about 5.7 inches on this, but it feels larger, like one half of this feels larger than the screen on my Note 20 Ultra that I have recording this, which is larger. And another great example of when this would be useful is like whenever you're watching videos. So like whenever you're on YouTube, you actually get a larger display on here than you would if you were watching it in like a vertical orientation if you were like on the Note 20 Ultra, just because it's a bit wider and the video can like kind of fill up a little bit more. And another cool thing about this is that being a Surface device, it actually works really well with the Surface Pen over here. This is I've seen a lot of videos where people use the slim pen with this, and I guess like if you were carrying around the pen in your pocket all the time, that's probably a better bet. But with my Surface Pro 7, I've been using the traditional pen. But either way, either one of these pens, they actually go ahead and they stick on to the device using their magnets. Just so you know, that isn't how it was intended. That's just some type of happy accident that Microsoft had. And also you should know it doesn't actually hold on too tight to it. It does hold on pretty well. So like if you're out and about and you had it like this, and you needed to grab your pen or store it on the back for a little bit, not too terrible. However, like if you were like slipping it into your pocket, this would slide off. If you're keeping this in your pocket, first off, I would recommend using the slim pen. And second off, just keep an eye on it so you don't end up losing it. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and gone over what's good or cool about the device. Now we're gonna go ahead and talk about what's not so good with this device and what's actually just quite terrible. And so the first thing you'll notice, there's nothing on the outside. There's no notification LED or anything. So there is no way to tell what type of notification you got until you open the display. And just in general, notifications on this tend to suck because again, you'll notice there is no speaker on the outside or anything. So whenever it dings, I've had it like happen like a couple of times. I haven't even noticed it. Like if you are like far away, so like if I was like in my kitchen over there, I wouldn't be able to tell like if this phone was on this table. So again, if you are using this device for notifications, you definitely need something like a smartwatch to go along with it. I don't know, maybe, you know, there was a Surface watch that was in development at some point that never made it, just like the Surface Neo, but this is not great if you are constantly getting notifications. So like if you're really busy, not that great. And also another thing I noticed with notification, well actually just with haptic feedback in general, is that the motor in this is very weak. I had it on vibrate and I had this phone in front of me and apparently it went off like 3 or 4 times, but I wasn't even able to tell that I had a single notification. And the next thing I want to kind of point out is, and I mentioned this earlier, is that this device has no expandable memory, which is a very weird decision for in like a productivity like oriented device. I think that's just like really weird. And I do think expandable memory would have been a welcome feature on this, considering that you only have 2 options. You have the 128 and the 256 gigabyte variants. There is no 512, there's no 1 terabyte. So again, I think that expandable memory would have come in handy. Up next, I want to talk about another questionable decision. So this actually only has 6 gigabytes of RAM. It does have the Snapdragon 855, which, I mean, it is quite old. It is the one that came out with the Note 10 Plus. And so about like, what, 2 years old now? And I mean, it is a very capable processor on my Note 10 Plus. I mean, that's what I was using to like edit all my videos. And like, I used that phone like to the max, and I never had any issues with it like crashing or any app stopping or if it like shutting stuff down in the background. I never had any issues with it. However, that did have 12 gigabytes of RAM, and this has half the RAM but double the screen real estate. So I mean, we'll see like how it goes, but I am very skeptical of that, and again, a very questionable decision. And there's actually quite a bit more that this device is missing that I think a lot of people would have expected. For a device for more than $1,000, it's missing wireless charging. There is no NFC, so you don't have contactless payments. You can't use Google Pay on this. There is no IP rating. And another thing that this phone is missing is, well, it doesn't have any 5G support. Just keep that in mind that like it might feel dated pretty quick. And the big thing I think a lot of people are going to dislike about this device is that you can see that there's nothing on the outside. So there's no camera on the outside. The only camera that you have is this single front-facing camera over here. And I think that is the best description of it, is that it is a front-facing camera. Microsoft makes it sound like it is a main, like a really nice camera, but it's definitely not. I would say even as a selfie camera, it is barely acceptable in 2021. Like I've gone ahead and like I took like a bunch of photos, and the only phone that I could kind of compare it with that had this low end of a camera was my iPhone SE, and the iPhone SE just, it blows this thing out of the water. It's like Of course, like with if you compare with the rear sensor, 100%, like this is way better, leagues ahead of what this is over here. Again, even as like a selfie camera, this is not that great. I would say it's decent in really bright environments. Like if you have the right amount of lighting, I think you could get away with it. All right, so now we've actually gone ahead and touched on all of the sore points within the hardware, and now we're going to move on to the software issues that this device has. The main one being the gestures. Sometimes whenever you're trying to like go to the menu, whatever, it doesn't pick up properly. Another issue I've had is that sometimes it doesn't know which display to use. So like whenever you open it like this, and if it was working properly and you folded it this way, it would keep it facing you. Sometimes I've had an issue where it was using the back screen instead. Also, I've had an issue where like one screen would be frozen and I wouldn't be able to get out of it until I closed the device and opened it up. And I've also had apps crash a couple of times because they don't know how to work with this device. And again, I mean, I'm not so sure like if that's so much of a software thing or that it doesn't have enough RAM, but it definitely reminded me of the terrible days where Android used to crash quite a bit. And the last bad thing I want to talk about when it comes to these devices is quality control. So I've seen a bunch of posts of people saying that the plastic around the port here tends to break, and also their screen, like the laminate off the screen starts peeling off. Again, not issues you would want to have on such an expensive device. Personally, I haven't experienced any of those issues. However, because I've seen those comments, I'm being extra careful with this device, and I'm using some of the workarounds. Like some people have recommended that you use a magnet port over here so you're not like plugging it in and out all the time. All right, so now moving on to our verdict. Basically, this is very clearly a Gen 1 product. I'm actually quite terrified to think of how it must have been whenever it first came out, especially at its price point of $1,400, because a year later, it still has a bunch of quirks, and that is a year that's been filled with updates and bug fixes. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, for what it is right now, for $500, I actually don't think it's that bad. I can see this being a great secondary device to have. For example, right now for work, I have this additional iPhone SE, and I also use the Surface Pro 7. And I honestly do feel like I'd be able to replace both of those devices with this one Surface Duo. And for what it is right now, for its price point right now, I would go ahead and just for the potential, I would go ahead and give it a B. If this was still at the original price point of $1,400, this would be a straight F. But for $500, I think we can cut it some slack. And I will be using this for the next couple of weeks. So if you guys do have any questions or comments about it, just leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you guys enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please consider dropping a like and consider subscribing for more tech content like this. And I'll see you guys next time.